Welcome, everybody. My name is Stuart Gethner. I'm your presenter today for the webinar. And the purpose of this webinar is to help realtors either grow their own portfolio for real estate investing or to work with investors for real estate investing. And I'm proud to say that I have, let me provide you my contact information, if you will. Here we go. Live TV, there we go. So this is my contact information. I always like to say, class doesn't end when the bell rings. You're all going to probably have more questions when it's all said and done. So please take down my contact information. And I love saying this when I speak and I put on webinars. This is one of the most favorite things I say. I've got nothing to sell you. My teammates, Deb Rogers and Melissa over at Lawyers Title, they got nothing to sell you. If you wanted to buy something today, Bert over in finance, who's my guru, there's nothing to sell you. We're your resource. So put your credit cards away, your debit cards away, your checkbook away. There's nothing for sale. 100% pure education. And that's how we market ourselves, is by trying to help others. And so with that said, I'm going to be able to interface with our hosts and hostesses during the event. Just a couple of housekeeping things so you know what to expect. We're probably going to go for 60, maybe 75 minutes. Please feel free to put questions in the chat box if you want, or raise your hand. I promise, and I spoke to Bert beforehand, we will stay after this is over. So if anybody has any questions that isn't answered or they're not comfortable asking during the presentation, we'll make sure that those questions get answered. And also, as far as an agenda today, here's what I thought we would do. I thought we would start with me just working with an example of why invest in real estate, like what's the whole purpose of it, and why realtors should, and how realtors can help us, me as an investor. I'm not a realtor. I'm an investor. In fact, in my previous life, I'm a pharmacist. I used to own pharmacies here in town and just started getting into real estate investing, sold them in 2012, and I make a very nice, comfortable living with my real estate investments. And if you couldn't tell, one of my passions is teaching others how to do it. It's kind of like riding a bike. Once I teach you how to ride a bike, and I don't know when the last time you were able to ride a bike, but if I brought you in my parking lot right now, after about 5-10 minutes, it's a skill. So we're teaching you a skill. So why invest in real estate, especially in our valley? And there's a couple reasons why. First reason why is appreciation. Over time, properties tend to go up in value, right? Especially residential properties, and they allow investors like us to build long-term wealth. We're especially lucky here in the Valley because we get a solid appreciation. I'm going to show you a couple examples in a couple slides. I own property out in Cincinnati and other parts of Ohio and Chicago. They don't get the appreciation that we do here. They get solid rents, but different here, appreciation. Let's see, another example on why we would want to invest is cash flow. Cash flow and passive income. Rental income can cover not just the mortgage payments, but it covers expenses as well and gives us a solid monthly profit. And of course, there's tax advantages. Tax advantages such as deductions for depreciation, interest, and operating expenses. I'm going to give a live example of what that looks like. And so if you have any questions, I know Bert's very well versed in this stuff as well. So again, we're your resources. Deb is a great resource, and I'll show you why in just a moment as well. And then the leverage, right? So if you're going to buy, you want to buy a condo for $100,000, $200,000, you don't need $100,000 or $200,000. You need just a percentage of that. Unlike other investments like crypto, the stock market, bonds, oil and gas, art, whatever that is, gemstones, whatever the cost of that is, that you got to come up with the whole amount. But in real estate investing, you don't need to come up with the whole amount. You just need to come up with a percentage. All right, so for my example, I thought I would just start with like a single family residence here in the Valley. So I reached out to one of the best resources that I could think of, and that is sitting right here on our webinar today is Deb. And I emailed her just the other day. I said, hey, Deb, what's the average value of a single family residence in Phoenix? And I'm telling you, not hours, within minutes, I got this email back, $470,000. And so, and by the way, Deb is a great resource. If you want to get into working with investors, she has all kinds of software and apps that can pinpoint good investors for you, good investments for you, good neighborhoods for you. It's a resource that I love to use, and it's available for us. So That's a great resource. So if we start with 470,000, I just want to introduce you to a term that we use as investors. And that term is after repaired value. And we call that ARV. And I call that after repaired value is when something's all fixed up and looks shiny and new. So you're getting ready to sell a car. You're probably going to run it through the car wash, vacuum it, put a coat of wax on it, make the tires look shiny. That's after repaired value. So if after repaired value, ARV, if it's 470,000, we as investors can't pay 470,000. We can't pay retail. We have to pay what I would call wholesale. And I mentioned I'm a retired pharmacist. Actually, I still volunteer for the county. But when I owned pharmacies here in town, one of the things I noticed was if I'm selling Tylenol for kids for $8 a bottle, and Walmart's selling it for kids for $6 a bottle, I'll sell some Tylenol for kids, but Walmart's really selling the bulk of it. So in order for me to be competitive, I have to buy better. And the same thing is true pretty much in any business. But when we talk about real estate, wanting to buy better, if something's worth 470, we need to buy it at a discount. And so most investors want to try to get a 30% discount, a 40% discount, and that's out there. But I want to be conservative just for this example. I'm going to ask for a 15% discount. So if you do the math, 15% off 470 is right about 400,000. So if I buy something for 400,000, I'm going to need a down payment of about 20%. And you may say, well, I don't have 80,000, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. Your investors probably do. But if we were to put down 80,000, our loan amount, and I'm going to tell you when Bert talks, he's going to tell you all about loans, is going to be about 320,000. And I just picked an interest rate of 6%. And you and I both know those interest rates change when the wind blows. Is the Fed going to lower it? Is it going to raise it? I can't control that, so I don't stress that. So I just put in 6%. And so our monthly principal and interest in this example is about $1,920. Just as so, purchase price 400 was worth 470. We got a 15% discount. We came up with 80,000. There's the loan amount, and it's 6% for that monthly principal and interest. On that house, I could probably rent that house for about 2,700, 27 and change a month, maybe more. Is it in Scottsdale? Is it in Goodyear? Is it in Peoria? Is it in Sun City? It depends, right? But for the most part, in the valley, that 3 or 4 bedroom house would rent for that amount. And now my monthly principal and interest is 1,900. I appreciate for this example, I did not include taxes. I did not include insurance. I did not include an HOA because those change, but this is just a generic example. You'll see up in the headline, it says example. So it's an example. And so that yearly cash flow would bring me almost $10,000 a year. And some people say for $10,000, you can't get rich off $10,000 if you need a new air conditioner, if a new plumbing pipe bursts, that's going to cost you $10,000. So there's more to real estate investing than just the cash flow. We talked about earlier appreciation, things go up in value. And now we're going to talk about depreciation, which I think is just funny. And the government invented this thing called depreciation. You know, I'm talking to you right now on my laptop. I have an Apple MacBook Air. Let's just pretend that laptop cost $5,000. It costs a little less, but let's pretend $5,000. The government allows me to deduct $1,000 off my profit every year for 5 years. And then after 5 years, you may have heard the expression, the book value. The book value of my laptop is 0. Oh, it still works. In fact, this one's probably over 5 years old, but it's an incentive for me to, because I can't depreciate it anymore, don't get the tax advantage, maybe donate my laptop to the Boys and Girls Club and go out and buy another one and support the economy. So they do the same thing with residential real estate. They allow you to depreciate it over 27 and a half years. I don't know who came up with that number, 27 and a half, but that's what they came up with. So if you took our purchase price and you divide it by 27 and a half, we'd be able to get depreciation of a little over $11,600 a year. And then you probably know this, but there's the interest that you pay when you make a mortgage payment. That's a deduction for us also. So if you take a look at all the ways we can make money on just one property, We would get almost 10,000 from the yearly cash flow. We would get the depreciation, and we would also get the interest deduction. And if you add those all up, they come to slightly over $40,000. So that's for, so when I work with my clients and they come to me to help them either learn how to invest or they want to invest with me, the first question we're going to ask them is, how are you trying to replace an income? How much money do you want to make? What does that look like? Right? And if you're just starting and you're like, I want to make 10 million a year, well, that's just not very realistic, right? But if you want to make 100,000 a year, 200,000 a year, you now know this property can generate for you about 40,000 a year. So you want to make 100 a year, you need about 2.5 of these. When I first started, there was this guru back on television, I'm showing my age. His name was Carlton Sheets. And he used to have this program, How to Buy Real Estate with No Money Down. And I bought them. I buy all the programs, by the way, and I listened to him. So I bought his program, and he had this probably the least expensive program, and it had the best information. He had this strategy of an exit strategy for income. He would say, buy one house a year, one a year. After 10 years, sell the first five. And it would have gone up so much the first five, you could either pay down or pay off the last five and live off that income for the rest of your life. So that was his strategy. I tried to do that on steroids and buy two a year. Then I went to multifamily and such, but it's a very straightforward as to, this is not higher math. This is but there's one more variable, and we talked about it before, and that was the appreciation, that asset's going to go up in value over time. And so I know you know what appreciation it means. I put it in here just in case. It means the increase in value of an asset over time. And in real estate, it happens when a property's market value rises. And I mentioned earlier, we're very lucky to live in the Valley because over years, I don't get that appreciation, like I said, in Ohio. I don't get that appreciation with my investments in Chicago. So I did a little research. And I came up with you heard of maybe Neighborhood Scout, and they reported over 10 years that values increased in this time frame, 2015 to 2025, about 10% a year. Now, I don't think that can go on forever. In fact, I think we'll all agree that's probably slowed down a little bit. And maybe in today's world, it's maybe shifted more to a buyer's than a seller's market. But can we agree things go in cycles? Right? And then I did one with AZ Big Media, and it noted that there was nearly a 260% gain from 2011 to 2021. And so I saw that 10 years. I said, I wonder what 20 years will give us. So I went out, did a little more research, and I saw that the 20-year appreciation for Case-Shiller with CoreLogic, they said that over the 25 years that they did 25 years, that there was an average of 5 to 6% average per year. That sounds more reasonable. So for this example, on our one that we're working on right now, I decided to be even more conservative. Let's not do 6%. Let's not do 5%. Let's do 4%. So what would that property be worth at a 4% appreciation? Now, remember, it was worth $470. We bought it at a discount. So in 3 years, we'd have about a profit if we sold of about 60 grand. And look what happens if we compound it over 5 years, it's over 100 grand. And if we held on to that property for about 10 years, which is about the time investors hold on to properties, is about 5 to 10 years. Some hold on to it forever. Some want to flip. Some want to wholesale. We're going to talk about that as well. But you get a profit in 10 years of $226,000. And with that said, you take a look at the slide I showed you before with the yearly cash flow, that property is worth a little over 40,000, just one, but add to it the yearly appreciation, and it's crazy what that one property would be worth. Now, we will agree that in order to capture that gain on appreciation, you'd probably have to sell the asset, and it would be a taxable event. So one of the strategies that I've done over time is instead of selling it, just doing a cash out refi. Call Bert on the phone and say, this is how much I owe. This is how long I've owned it. This is how much I think it's worth. And he'll be able to get me a cash out refi, maybe 80% LTV, 75 or 60% LTV. I'll be able to put that cash in my pocket or make another investment. It's not a taxable event because I'm borrowing the money. So that's a strategy that I've used when my assets go up in value rather than sell the asset. And now, to finish up, I want to kind of wind this down with why realtors are the perfect person to work with us investors. Okay, and to help get property for yourself as a realtor. First, and this is, and I've seen this many times, and you've probably experienced this. You have early access. You know about things before I do. And one of the ones that I love that realtors have access to, I call it my grandma died deal, right? Grandma dies, and we all miss her, right? And when grandpa died a few years back, his life insurance policy paid off the mortgage. And so the realtor calls the kids or the grandkids living in Montana or New York and says, this was grandma's house and she lived in it for 30 some years and it smells like grandma's house and it looks like grandma's house. If you give me a budget, I'll rip out the carpet, I'll put in some flooring, I'll paint this place. I can get you a whole lot of dollars more. And the kids and the grandkids say, don't want to. Whether they have the money or not, they don't want to. Just sell it. And so that's when I would like a phone call. Other investors would like a phone call because we're going to be able to buy it at that discount, probably more than 15% that I talked about before. Also, you're going to say, as an investor, you can help me save on commissions. Whether you want to throw your commission in a deal, one of the realtors I've worked with, she always wants to throw her commission in the deal. And so she gets a piece of the action. And I got to be honest with you, over time, that really adds up. And also, the market. When I put on events, I like to have professional speakers come. And a year or two ago, I had this gal. Her name was Catherine Ragar. She writes for the real estate section for the Arizona Republic. Again, when she spoke, nothing to sell. I love that. She just educated. But you and I, we already know what's going on in the marketplace today. We don't have to wait for Catherine Ragar in 3 months from now, write an article about Arizona real estate and how it was in July of 2025. We know it. We're experts because we live it. And we don't have to be an expert everywhere in the valley. You just have to be an expert in some area of the valley. And it's probably in the neighborhood where you live, where you shop, where you go to church, whatever that is, you're going to be the expert. And there's actually a couple more reasons why realtors excel at this as well. You have a built-in network that others don't have. So you could help me as an investor, especially if I'm just getting started, to introduce me to lenders like Bert. That's why we have him today. Contractors, inspectors, and other investors. And I'm here to tell you, if you're just kind of getting started and you don't have the resources of contractors or inspectors or other investors, I know Deb Rogers does. She's a great resource. If I needed to get an inspection done, if I needed a plumber, if whatever I needed, if I don't have one, I'm going to ask her. She's probably not going to have one. She's probably going to have 2 or 3 that she could recommend to me. And so I don't have to know everything because I don't. I just have to know where to go to get it, right? So if you're just getting started and you don't have the resources, you have them right here today on the webinar on our team. And then the last piece that I want to throw up on why realtors excel in this stuff is because you've negotiated before. You understand the process. An investor just getting started doesn't understand the process, doesn't know what an LSR is, they don't know the process. They may know the math, but they probably don't know the process. And that's where you come in. And that's why you excel. And that's a great niche for you to get involved in, to either help investors like me with property and earn a commission, or educate yourself so that you can build your own portfolio and whatever that strategy is. But it all starts with a strategy. So when you have to understand, and there's a famous book that was written by this guy, Stephen Covey, many centuries ago. It was like The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And I kind of resonate with this, his reason number 2. And that is, start with the end in mind. What are you trying to accomplish? So when you start to work with an investor, you want to ask them, what are you doing? Are you flipping? Because if you're flipping, you need to buy at a bigger discount than if you're doing a buy and hold. Are you wholesaling? Well, then we need to be at this price point. So all investors can be at different price points. And so we just knowing what they're looking for. And my experience with investors has been that they're happy to take the time to educate, because you may not understand the difference between a wholesale and a fix and flip deal. So ask. And again, I'm going to promote Deb and Bert. They know what that stuff is, and myself. So if you have questions or you want to get started, We're the resources. So starting with the that's what I would suggest and offer to you, to start with the end in mind. What is your investor looking for? I can also tell you your investor's looking for off-market deals, like the grandma died deal. And when I teach the class, because I teach over at the ASREA, I'll always say this, and there's always somebody in the room. So I always put that little asterisk, that disclaimer. Some of your best deals don't make it on the MLS. They're off market. So I'm always looking for off market. And again, I'm always going to have somebody raise their hand and go, but I found this deal on the MLS. And so there's my disclaimer. There's probably deals on the MLS, but most of the time what we look for are what we call off market deals. And realtors can be 100% involved in off-market deals. So that's why I think you fit in perfectly. And then last but not least that I put up here, and that's we look for financing and terms. We don't always want to come in with cash. I have an investor that I work with, and he comes in with cash. The dude just writes a check for whatever, 2 million. He writes a check for 400,000. Wouldn't that be nice? And what he does is he pays cash, and then he does a refi. So he gets 80% of his cash back, 75% of his cash back. But if we can find deals where there's maybe financing or terms, and there's my handsome associate right there, Bert, who I'm going to turn the microphone over to in just a moment or two. He's going to explain to you what's going on in the market today. There's these things called DSCR loans, there's hard money loans, there's short-term loans, long-term. In fact, there's so many different programs, and I always joke they change the programs when the wind changes. And so we want to stay in touch with Bert because things happen where lenders are. I'm old enough to remember Washington Mutual, and they would do this negative amortization loan. So depending on where banks are at any given time, they could be more aggressive or more conservative with their lending. And so it's great to have someone like Bert that on your team, because he can keep you posted and tell you what's probably best for you. But I'll let him, don't want to steal his thunder. I'll let him tell yourself. So with that said, if you wanted to get started doing this, this is my suggestion for your next steps, okay? This is what you would do next. Start talking and working with it. You want to sit down and have a conversation with me, any investor that you might know of. We're more than happy usually to talk about what our objectives are, our mindset, what we're looking for. If I were you, I would attend investor meetups and workshops. And you may not be the only realtor in the room, and that's fine. There's enough for everybody. When I first started in this business, I had just sold my pharmacies, and they wanted me to, and we're going back quite a few years, and they wanted me to stay on and help them. And I stayed on and helped them, and they never used me. And so I brought the Arizona Republic to work with me one day, back in the day when they would advertise retail rental for sale, property for sale. They had a whole section of property for sale. And there's this thing called FSBOs, for sale by owner. And I had this script of what I was going to ask an owner about. I'm a real estate investor, and how much is your property worth? When has it been remodeled? Yada, yada, yada. And what I learned was, when I started this on Monday morning, most FSBOs go to work on Monday, so nobody answers their phone. And then I finally had one lady who answered the phone, and I had these 10 questions that I would ask, and I thought they'd be engaging conversations. And she would answer yes, no, no. And after the 10 questions, there was this uncomfortable silence. And so I finally said to her, ma'am, I'm just getting started in real estate investing. And so I'm really asking these questions because I want to buy investment property. And she says to me, well, to be honest with you, this is an investment property for me, and I'm trying to sell it. And I thought, great, maybe we can go to lunch sometime and I can pick your brain and learn from you. And she said this response, this true story. She said, why would I want to teach you and have lunch and have you pick my brain? Now I'm just going to have another competitor in the marketplace. No, thank you. And I thought to myself, you think you're going to corner the market on real estate investing? I mean, there's enough for everybody. So if I were you, I'd start by attending investor meetups, the workshops. I mentioned the Arizona Real Estate Investor Association, 100% education, nothing to sell you. In fact, I get to teach a class there on raising capital in August. So I'm excited about that. And then I also put here, position yourself as an investor-friendly agent, right? And I did that on purpose because I don't like that expression. I don't like investor-friendly. I want you to be investor knowledgeable. And you don't have to know the whole market. You can get data from Deb as to neighborhoods, as to where growth is shrinking. Just be knowledgeable, because when you're knowledgeable, then you're my resource and I can go to you. You don't have to know it. You just have to know where to go to get it. So when it comes to financing, it's Bert. When it comes to title, it's going to be Melissa. When it comes for statistics and data and marketing, it's Deb. You have all the resources. And so I think this is a great opportunity for you to not just expand another niche, another tributary working with investors, but if you saw the example I gave with the house, the one house, how it could be worth more than 40 grand a year plus appreciation, maybe that's something you'd like to do for yourself. So with that said, I owe some thank yous. Okay. First thank you I got to give is to my Angela, my assistant. She helped me put this PowerPoint together, which is great. So thank you, Angela, and those that are hosting as well. I can't speak highly enough of Deb. I bounced this idea off her. Hey, Deb, why don't we do a lunch and learn? Why don't we do some webinars? And she was all over it. So I'm very appreciative. And Melissa's been doing this for, I know it doesn't look like it, but over 30 years. So if you need a resource, you need some education, you need to know how much does title insurance cost? What does it look like? What are my investor discounts? And of course, Bert, he's going to be presenting next, but certainly these are the resources that you need and now you have to start and be successful. And that's the most important. So like any good presentation, I put together my sources. Yes, you can have my slides. Yes, you can have my presentation. There's nothing proprietary about it. This was 100% education. And so with that said, I will give you my contact information one last time. If you think you want to reach out and have a conversation, cup of coffee, happy to do it. We could do it on Zoom. My office is at Tatum and Shea. And I'm happy to help you. No charge. Happy to do it.
So I like to start with little sayings. We hear all the time in real estate, it's a buyer's market or it's a seller's market. Let me tell you something. It's always a renter's market. Always. So I want to introduce myself. I got started in this industry because I went into foreclosure. I went into foreclosure in 2003. I spoke to investors, used as much resources as I could to get myself out of foreclosure, and then I became an investor, knocking on doors just like the people that knocked on my door. And then after that, in 2004, is when I became a mortgage broker and learned about different loan programs out there that's available to anyone if they want to use the resources to become an investor. So what I like to do is assist realtors and investors and help them understand the powerful real estate loan options that are out there. Because here's another one: best way to do business is with three key words, three key letters: OPM, other people's money. Don't use yours, use somebody else's. All right. So what do investors really need? Um, Investors want from financing. They want speed because time is money. You may be out there competing with another investor, and there are programs out there that are fast enough that could compete with a cash deal. Um, they want flexibility. They want to be able to go and possibly look at a single family property, or go look at multi-unit. And so they want to have different options and different flexibility. A lot of investors is cash flow focused. There's a lot of loans out there that are based off of cash flow on your property, which makes it a lot easier because you might have saved up the money as the down payment, but you don't have the income. That's fine. I don't need your income. We can use the property's cash flow. Another great option. The other thing is investors look for is low documentation. They want to protect their privacy. All right. And then the other thing is scalability. And what I mean by scalability is since a lot of these loans, are cash flow based and we don't have to use personal income. Say you happen to find an investor that has 600,000 and wants to go buy one investment property. Why have them buy one property at 600,000 cash? Why not sell them two $600,000 properties with $300,000 down and cash flow? So getting started on some of these different programs, first one I'd want to talk about is fix and flip loans. So with fix and flip loans, to get started, we need three factors. All right. We need the purchase price, the cost of the rehab, and then the ARV, after repair value or after renovation value. And this is where realtors are great partners. You know the market, you know what the property is going to sell for afterwards. So your investor, this is where he utilizes you as a resource. All right. You can finance the purchase and the rehab of the property, the demo, everything. You can you draw funds as work completes. They'll give you a certain amount of draws, some 3, 4, 5. And then the other thing is these loans are interest only during the rehab period. And they will give you a period of anywhere 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and we can go even longer depending on the size of the project and the scope of the work. Now, I like to follow my fix and flip loans with the DSCR because quite a few people have, been reading up on the Burr method, where you take a fix and flip loan and then you use a DSCR as an exit strategy instead of selling the property. You can hold on to it and use all those great benefits that Stuart spoke about, depreciation and so forth. Now, with DSCR loans, it's qualified based on rental income. So the great thing is this protects you if you're just deciding to become a real estate investor, your private information. It also protects your investor's private input information because I don't need W-2s, I don't need tax returns, I don't need any of their personal income information. The other thing is we spoke earlier about that it's great for scaling for investors because you can close on multiple properties at one time because we don't have what they like to use as debt to income because each property and cash flow is going to be the qualifying income. Now, for example, let's get into the different ratios. And that's why you get DSCR, debt service coverage ratio loan. So pretty much the debt servicing or the debt payment is being covered by the cash flow of the home. So the first one is a 125-to-1 ratio, which is optimal, which is what you want to get. The higher the ratio, the better the cash flow. You make the lender feel even more safe that you're going to be able to pay the loan back, and they're going to give you good rates and terms. So for example is if you get $1,250 a month in rent and the housing expenses, which is your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and association, if there is one. So if it all comes up to $1,000 a month, you're cash flowing 0.25, 250 a month. They give you great rates, great terms. Now, if you can cash flow at a 1-to-1 ratio, which is the same thing as if you collect $1,000 in rent, all monthly expenses are $1,000. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. They still give you really good terms and rates. Now we can go below that. I've even gone down to a 0.75, which is a negative cash flow. Stuart, we've talked about this. Why would a bank do it?
Yeah.
One factor that we spoke about is appreciation. So they're going to figure that the property is going to appreciate, and then the rent will increase year after year slightly. Now with these, they will require more of a down payment. That's to make the lender feel safe. But we are able to do negative cash flow also. Now, going from DSCR, we go to commercial loans. DSCR loans, they were originally a commercial loan, and they're still classified as a commercial loan. It's just now that we're able to use them on single family residence. And I've even had a couple of new lenders are entertaining manufactured homes also. But when we get into commercial loans, typically most of the time you're thinking of 5 units or higher. And then it's the same thing. It's based off of the building income, the business income. Now with commercial and DSCR cash flow based loans, you can use them for not just buying real estate property. You can use them to buy a storage facility. You collect monthly rent on storage. So that's the qualifying cash flow that you would use to purchase a storage facility. You would not have to put up, your pay stubs, W-2s, 1099s, show your own income. Now, one thing you might be required to do is provide tax returns, and tax returns aren't for income. They're just to make sure that you and Uncle Sam are in good standings. Now, next after the commercial loans, I'd like to talk about hard money loans, used quite often in the investor world. Why? One of the first things we spoke about is speed. Time is money. A lot of these loans can close in 5 to 7 days. Now, just realize it's like going into Circle K. You don't have to take that long walk all the way back to the grocery store to go get your milk. It's just a short walk into Circle K. So we're paying for convenience. So you will have higher interest rates, points, fees, and you can move quick. You're paying for the speed, you're paying for the convenience, and these are great for distressed properties or off-market deals. And a great resource for distressed properties, title companies. And Deb is a great resource on finding distressed properties for you or your investors. Now, this is why, to me, realtors should care about investors. Close more deals. Just for example, I took some investors, young investors that I work with that have a couple of single family residences, and we started implementing the Burr method. And all they had to do was they had about 100K to work with, and now they're using that method, which is a fix and flip loan combined with a DSCR. Every 6 months, they're buying a property.
Wow.
So, which is great for realtors. You know what I mean? If you get enough investors in your hand that are able to buy 2 properties a year, think of how much easier your life is. Which makes you attract investor clients. Not only them, you can build your own portfolio. Now, down to the final parts of my presentation, how I like to help or assist is we talk about the program and we match it to the strategy, depending on what you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to scale, we can talk about different types of loans, what you're finding, where you are at financially, and make a game plan on scaling and how fast you want to scale. And just as Stuart says, everybody's a resource. Use all the resources you can. We're all here to help. We all learn from each other. I learn new stuff from everybody every day. So realtors, title companies, investors, lenders, it's all a great partnership. And this kind of wraps up my end of the presentation. I like to leave one of the best for last, which is title, another great resource to have. And I'm going to give you a title expert, and her name's Melissa. And right here is my information if you want to take it down. And contact me at any time. I'm not a 9 to 5 guy. I am a 24/7 guy, and the wife realizes that. So feel free to call me at any time. I'm going to unshare my screen and introduce you to Melissa.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm Melissa Terrazon. I work with Deb Rogers and have worked with Deb Rogers for years and years. I'm blessed to call her a friend and a partner. A little about me. I've been in title and escrow for the past 33 years, and it has been an amazing ride. I love what I do. We get to see all sorts of transactions, from the first-time home buyer to the investor to the small commercial transactions to somebody that's buying their forever home. That's that $7 million one in Verrado. So we get to see them all. So I do like to consider myself as an industry professional because I've been around for as long as I have, and I've gotten to see the straight ups of our industry and the straight downs, as well as the in-betweens. I've lived through them all and successfully navigated through them, which is the most important part, because as we all know, there is the straight ups and the straight downs. So thankfully been able to navigate through those. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
So I have a question for you, Melissa. I also have a question for you, Bert. But Melissa, back to you. One of the things I said in my presentation is we don't have to wait to read Catherine Rager's article 3 months from now to tell us what's going on in the market today. So
Yes.
your neck of the woods, what are you seeing? Are you seeing a lot of new builds, new purchases, scaling down? And of course, your neighborhood's different than another neighborhood, but you're in good years. Is that right?
We're in Goodyear,
All right,
yes.
tell me what's going
Do
on.
have agents that are obviously across the board, if you will. However, we do deal with a lot of the Verado people. And Verado tends to be one of those areas that you have your very high end. So you've got your multi-million dollar properties, but you also have your first time home buyer. So it's a big range. We've been steady. Thankfully, we've been very steady. July normally is one of those months where you're like, "Oh my goodness, are we going to make it through this month and still have our shirts on?"
Yeah.
But thankfully, it's remained steady. I think a lot of that though has to do with stability as far as who the team is. When you've got an industry professional like Deb Rogers that's been around as long as she has, and people know and trust the name. I think it makes it a little easier for us to continue to stay consistently busy versus having as much of the up and down, up and down, up and down. So we're still seeing, we don't do a lot of builders, at least in this particular branches. There are branches throughout our company that do have builder business. We do not. We typically have the investors and then the residential resale. And then we have a couple of lenders that we handle all of their refinances. So they're a nice fill in the gap. But we're seeing more and more of those refis. And I'm sure Bert can attest to that people are, unfortunately, the market's been a little wonky. So maybe they're using those credit cards a little too much. And now they're going to refinance and pay off all those credit cards. So we are starting to see a lot more refinance transactions as well.
So Bert, I was going to ask you, and Melissa, thank you for that. And she's spot on. Are people going to use their credit cards to more and such? But my question I was going to ask you is what are you seeing? Are you seeing first time home buyers? Are you seeing more investors? Are you seeing more refinances? What's going on in your world?
No, that's a great question, Stuart. In my world, I've stayed mostly in the investment side, only because investors, if it makes sense, they're going to pull the trigger. They understand that interest rates are cyclical. They're going to have their ups and downs, but the property is going to appreciate. It's going to have a correction here and there, but over long term, investors know that the property is going to go up. And so you have some that don't focus too much on the cash flow. Some will call it, the equity flow, to where, hey, if this person can cover my housing expense on this property, over time I'll make money with the equity and depreciation. The other thing is when it's slow,
Mhm.
lenders tighten up. They will change guidelines on certain programs. So if the investment applications now become slow, DSCR loans will require, 20% down instead of 15. Right now, the market is pretty stable, getting plenty of applications. So there are lenders out there, if your property can cash flow, you can put 15% down.
And a lot of, I'm sorry, Melissa, do you work with a lot of investors, or do you work with all kinds of do you have a sweet spot, or what do you?
I would say residential tends to be more of my sweet spot, traditional residential. That would be what, for the most part, fills my day, if you will. But we do have a nice, healthy, we'll say, healthy plate, if you will, of the investor business and the commercial business. We're still seeing a lot of the dirt deals where there's lots of vacant land that's still out there, especially in our area. So we're still seeing the large parcel sales as well as the onesie twosie lots.
Deb, I'm going to ask you a question, but Bert, first, if you don't mind, you work with investors. That's what you said was mainly the big share of your crop. What are some of the common mistakes that investors make when they're coming to you looking for a loan? Like what are they missing that you're able to help them with?
That's a great one too. Especially, I just had my first time investor couple, and the realtor was kind of new to it, which is this is a great resource to learn from it because in the commercial world, um, usually you will balance and then loan docs go out and then you sign, but a lot of the lenders on the commercial side or investment financing, they will sign, then balance, then fund. So if things don't go the way you're normally used to, then people panic. So I had to provide a lot of information, let this couple know that, hey, don't be surprised if you don't see this loan on your credit report because it's a commercial loan.
Interesting.
So,
So, Deb, each one of us have been singing your praises, right? I sing your praises, Melissa sings, and you haven't said a word. So your head, it hasn't been swelling ever since I've been singing. But when we talk about the resources that you're able to provide us, why don't you throw us a couple nuggets of some of the things that you're being able to do for investors like myself and others?
Well, I think a lot of people, realtors, don't realize how much data we have. Like back in the olden days, we couldn't pull anything hardly. We were lucky if we could pull an address for you. Now we can pull phone numbers, emails, we can pull next most likely sellers, we can pull renters whose leases are getting ready to expire, we can pull notice of trustee sale for sale by owners. We have an app that is amazing that has all our fees on it and everything that, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It'll pull the payoff, it'll pull the property taxes for the property if you put an address in. So we have a ton of stuff and we're a national company. So, we have a lot of great stuff. Yeah.
How much, so when I get data, I already know the answer. So when I ask for data, how much does that cost me?
The data? Oh,
Yeah.
free. Free. Free.
Right. And so we're able to get information from you. We get apps
Yep.
from you. And then in exchange, we get to use in your neck of the woods, Melissa as our title company. What's the average length of how long a transaction takes to close?
Melissa.
I would say from contract to close, we generally see that people are still writing 30-day close of escrows. And then, of course, you've got those, we got to close quick because we just sold our house
Right.
and we need to close simultaneously. So, we still have those once in a while where it's a 10-day or a 15-day close. And as long as you have a lender like Bert that's on the other side of it, we can get it done with a lender that participates well with us, again, like Bert. So gosh, we've closed in early as quick as 5 days when we've had to. But the norm is 30-day close that we see on the contract.
And Norm, just not traditional loans, but for investors, just like Melissa said, so someone needs money quick. So there's a great deal. I don't want to lose it. How fast would it take you to be able to fund an investor on a great opportunity?
Within 3 to 5 days is the only thing that holds us up sometimes is going to be an HOA. And then, of course, if you're having to request HOAs, the demands legally, they have 10 days to get us the statement. Some of them can get them to us in days. Others hold our feet to the fire and it takes the full 10 days. But it's usually the HOAs, or if by chance there's a solar on there. Anymore, you see a solar and you just cringe because the solar company is going to drag their feet on getting everything over to everybody.
It's crazy. And Bert, how about you? How long would it take you to fund something?
right now, we go hard money, 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
Wow.
We get into DSCR loans. Those can be very efficient because I don't need tax returns. I don't need to call your work and verify your employment. None of that stuff. So a lot of that for like the DSCR, what slows me down is the appraisal. And the nice thing is we're not super busy, which is investors realize that. And so appraisal turnaround times are quick. I've been able to get them back in 3 days. I have a DSCR that I'm closing right now that is taking me less than 2 weeks from start to finish.
That's great. That's great. So as we wind down, I know we have some guests. We have Lana, we have Kelly, we have Linda. Any questions from the audience? We want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable before we wrap up and give everybody a last word. Linda, Kelly?
I have a question.
Okay.
I'll just throw it out to the whole panel. I have a rental townhome and I'm trying to decide, should I sell it or just rent it out till I die? Thoughts?
Where is it?
Mesa, right? Just north of where Fiesta Mall used to be. It's not the greatest neighborhood, older community. The management there is tanking. A big part of me says get out while you can. But it's, it's the worst market for townhomes, like literally ever.
Wow.
So I'm on the fence.
I'll just say this: I'm buying townhomes. I'm not sure it's the worst time ever. If you don't have to, so there's this guy that I'm not a realtor. I said that at the beginning, but there's this guy I love to listen to. His name is Brian Buffini. If you're a realtor, you've probably heard of Brian Buffini, and
Yes.
he's got some great expressions. And one expression I'm quoting him today: "Nobody ever lost money in real estate unless they had to sell." So my guess is if you think now is a bad time and you don't have to sell, then maybe ride it out because we agree everything goes in cycles. We just don't know where we are in the cycle until it's kind of over. But that's my thought. Bert, Melissa, Deb, any thoughts? And even Linda or Kelly, any thoughts?
I mean,
It's
for
kind of-
myself,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
if
No, go,
for
Bert.
me, I'm in the same boat. If it's something to where I'm not looking to sell it, if it's free and clear, maybe take something out, look at way to invest that money to get better cash flow or a better return. Maybe put a little into the property, update it. It just depends on your scenario.
Yeah.
I'm not big into getting rid of my properties unless I don't want to say need to, but if I can see in the foreseeable future, 2, 3 months, then yeah, I'll get rid of it. Most of the time, I'm going to hold on to it and collect that rent for as long as, for a good amount of time.
Deb, I see you nodding. Deb, you're going to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm involved in the Tom Ferry coaching program for 13 years, and I was just on a call with him, and we've partnered with him on a national level as well. So it's kind of funny after 13 years of being coached by him, but he was on a call with us the other day, and he said, guys, we're only going up from here. I'm telling you right now. And I'm going to his conference August 26th, 27th, and 28th. So I'm excited to come back and do our next conference and see what he has to share on that. But I don't know. Trump
Is
and
it just
Powell are
me?
meeting today, so let's see what happens.
Right.
Interest rates, please.
Yeah, we agree. But not that we're old, but we remember when interest rates were even higher than they were today. And
Oh, yeah.
I was around when President Carter was around, believe it or not. I know I look a lot younger, but it's like to hear people say 6% is outrageous. It's like,
Right.
I remember when, right? But everything in its context. So being respectful of everybody's time. I want to thank everybody. I'm going to go around one more time for some final thoughts. Bert, I'll start with you, then Melissa, then Deb, because you put this all together. Bert, any final thoughts, please?
Not much on final thoughts. I just want to say a lot of thank yous. I took a lot of notes, learned a lot from Stuart, Melissa, Deb. Great. I have to say, you guys are great partners. You guys are great resources. And that's the thing. Depending on how far you want to go, your team is everything.
I agree. And
Amen. Mhm. Yeah.
Miss Melissa, any final thoughts, please?
Hey, I'm going to piggyback with Bert, having the right team, the right people on the bus. If you've ever read the book, The Energy Bus, if you have the right people on the bus, you can make good things happen. So you guys are great partners. I enjoy working with Bert. I like talking food with Bert.
Oh, great chef right there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Bert, your chef, what's your favorite food to make?
Whatever's in front of me. Well, actually, to tell you the truth, my wife, she sometimes says, "What do you want to do for dinner?" And I'm the type to ask, "Let's go to the store. Let's see what looks good at the store, and we'll build it from there." And this is like your real estate portfolio. You got to decide. You got to go take a look what's out there, what appeals to you. Everybody's got their niche, what they want to get into, and like I said, that's me. I'll go and take a look at what's the best looking produce or nice pieces of meat or seafood, and we'll work from there. Just, find the right lot, find the right property. You can apply it however you like.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Miss Deb, we'll wind up with you because you put this together. Thank you. Thank you. Give us a final thought for you.
I just love enthusiastically connecting people. And, that's what we're here to do, is to help each other and sit down and talk and find out where you at, where you want to go, and let's partner and make it happen.
That's great. So again, we scheduled this for an hour. I went 2 minutes over. I apologize, but you know how to get a hold of everybody is my thoughts. Thank you all for attending.